spiritual awakening. Is it a peaceful enlightenment like everyone says? Or does it have a much darker side? Have you suddenly felt disconnected from life, lonely, even going crazy? Maybe this is the real face of awakening. In this video, I will show you the dark and scary stages of spiritual awakening. Not the ones that no one tells you about, not the ones that are glamorized on social media. Are you ready to face the truth? Then take a deep breath, because now we are going on a journey into the shadows. Introduction. Welcome to this journey where we discover dark secrets and unseen truths. In today's video, we will examine the dark side of spiritual awakening together. Many people describe spiritual awakening as a process full of peace, love, inner peace, and enlightenment. But this is just the surface of the story. In reality, this journey is much deeper, shocking, and often full of dark experiences. Spiritual awakening also brings with it the confrontation with past traumas, the destruction of false identities, and the struggle with loneliness and the unknown. Just when you think everything is fine, your entire perception of reality can be shaken. And during this process, many people get lost in great chaos without even realizing what they are experiencing. In this video, we will take you through the 7 deep, dark stages that you may encounter during the spiritual awakening process, step by step. We will discover together what each stage is, why it is experienced, and how you can progress through these stages. At the end of the video, you will learn how you can gain strength from these difficult processes, which inner traps you should avoid, and how you can turn darkness into a guide. If you are ready, let's start digging deeper now. Stage 1. Shock and denial. The silent scream of rejecting the truth. The first and most striking stage of spiritual awakening. Shock and denial. At this point, the person begins to feel a strange restlessness in their inner world. However, this restlessness is not familiar. It is not stress, nor just fatigue. It is as if an invisible hand has begun to turn their life upside down, but you cannot put a name to it. You know deep down that something has changed, but your mind does not want to accept it. You say, "Is this an awakening?" No, don't be ridiculous. You are just going through a bad period. This very sentence is denial itself. The ego resists to the end in order to protect the perception of me that it has built up until now. Let's remember Banu's story. She woke up one morning in her life surrounded by routines, and everything seemed foreign to her. When she looked in the mirror, she saw a face she did not recognize, but she immediately suppressed this feeling. She went to work that day, drank her coffee, answered her emails. "Everything is normal," she said, but his heart was silently shouting, "Something is changing." This is the stage where the old identity slowly begins to dissolve and the mind tries to resist it. It is very important not to blame yourself during this period. Whatever you feel, allow yourself to feel it. Just observe. Because behind this silent destruction, a brand new you is about to be born. Don't resist. Listen. Stage 2. Deep loneliness and isolation. The silent scream of the soul. The second stage of spiritual awakening is the most difficult and loneliest part for most people. You have now realized that something has changed, but this awareness disconnects you from the world. Your ties with people are shaken, friendships become alienated, and even those closest to you cannot understand you. You cannot tell them anything because words are inadequate. That indescribable emptiness growing inside you drags you into a deep loneliness. This loneliness is not an ordinary loneliness. It is an inner isolation felt even in the middle of a crowd. You no longer feel like you belong anywhere. You neither want to go back to the past, nor can you see the future. In between, you feel like you are suspended in a void. To give a fictional example, Can has been a social person throughout his life. He had a wide circle of friends and a plan every week. But one day, nothing seemed the same. Conversations were shallow. Crowds were meaningless. He gradually withdrew into himself. At first, he thought he was depressed, but this was something else. This was a process in which his soul became more and more lonely and deepened. What needs to be done at this stage is to befriend this loneliness instead of seeing it as an enemy. Because this isolation is a teacher that directs you to your own essence, to your own inner voice. Do not resist. In this silence, you learn to hear your own voice again. And remember, the greatest transformations begin in the quietest moments. Stage 3. Ego death and identity crisis. The echo of the question, who am I? We have perhaps reached the most shocking stage of spiritual awakening, ego death. At this point, the identity you have been cherishing for years begins to slowly dissolve. Now the question, who am I, echoes in your mind. But this time this question is not a philosophical quest, but a complete existential collapse. All the labels you use to define yourself with become meaningless. Your profession, your status, your relationships. Everything becomes blurry. The things that once made you who you are now feel like a shell that squeezes you. It's as if you're slowly taking off your clothes, but you don't know what's coming out. It's a scary, but also inevitable state of undressing. Let's consider a fictional example of this. Daria has been a successful lawyer for years. She is meticulous, disciplined, and has a career that everyone admires. But deep down, she begins to realize that this identity does not belong to her. One morning before a hearing, she looks in the mirror and says, "This is not me." As the void inside her grows, her identity begins to crack. At that moment, the ego begins to die. You should not panic during this process, because this collapse opens up space for the birth of a new self. The collapse of the old I is for the emergence of the true self. Who am I? The question is both frightening and enlightening. You may not find the answer right away, but if you dare to ask this question, then the journey has begun. Stage 4. Energetic cleansing and physical symptoms. The test of the soul and body. This stage of the spiritual awakening journey can be quite challenging, both mentally and physically. During this period, you will notice different, often disturbing changes in your body. The energetic cleansing process begins with the increase in your body's vibration level. However, this increase also brings with it physical and psychological symptoms. At first, you may feel some kind of tension or pain in every corner of your body. Headaches, nausea, changes in sleep patterns, and imbalance of energy are common symptoms. These physical reactions are not just discomfort, but also signs of a spiritual cleansing process. Your body is trying to purify itself of old energy residues as it rises from low frequencies to high frequencies. For example, Emre woke up one morning with a sudden headache. He thought that this pain was not just a physical problem. A few days later, he realized that the other symptoms in his body were also related to an energetic change. He felt something was changing both spiritually and physically, but the process was so intense that his body was trying to adjust. Some of the discomfort you experience during this period is related to old traumas, fears, and energetic blockages coming to the surface. Each symptom is part of your healing process. It is very important to be patient and sensitive to your body's reactions as you go through this stage. Try to relax and understand your body's needs without forcing yourself. Not rushing this process will be critical to completely clearing your energy. Stage 5. The traps of false enlightenment. Getting lost in the false light. During this stage of spiritual awakening, the search for light can lead you astray. In the beginning of the awakening, everything seems so bright and promising. It seems as if everything has finally become clear. However, this false enlightenment experience is often temporary and misleading. Many people may mistake this stage for true enlightenment, which can prevent them from making their real journey. False light is an experience that seems peaceful, but is actually superficial and far from depth. The most obvious characteristic of the false enlightenment trap is that a person feels as if they have risen rapidly and thinks everything is fine. However, this is usually just the personal ego taking on another form. The person starts to think wrongly that they know everything or have control over everything. However, this can only turn into a spiritual escape, meaning a distance from true inner transformation. For example, Zeynep took many spiritual lessons by practicing mindfulness a while ago. She thought she was improving rapidly. At one point, she realized that everything was very easy. She thought she had experienced great enlightenment with a group meditation session and a few luminous experiences. However, after a while, Zeynep's inner peace began to collapse because she had only experienced superficial comfort at that moment. The real change was hidden behind these false lights. False enlightenment can lead you astray from your true journey. The way to avoid this trap is to always be skeptical, careful, to accept that true transformation comes with time, and to remember that not everything is an illusion. The spiritual journey is much deeper than instant gratification. Knowing this will lead you to true enlightenment. Stage 6. Shadow integration. Confronting your dark sides. The next stage of spiritual awakening involves confronting your dark sides. Every person has a shadow inside them. Fears, traumas, repressed emotions, and unwanted aspects. The shadow remains hidden in the subconscious, but it surfaces in the awakening process. This stage requires a person to confront and accept these repressed and dark sides. Denying the shadow only allows it to grow and continue to influence. True transformation is about accepting and making peace with these dark sides. Simply shutting out or suppressing the shadow disrupts your inner balance. When you truly accept yourself, you can make peace with your darkest sides. For example, Ahmed struggled to confront his anger and insecurity for a very long time. Shutting out these aspects made him even more frustrated. One day, while meditating, an inner voice told him that he needed to look at these dark aspects. He was initially afraid, but eventually he understood the reason for his anger and his inner insecurity. This understanding led to a deep inner transformation. He now accepted his dark aspects and drew strength from them. Integrating the shadow means not only recognizing it, but also understanding that these dark aspects are a necessary guide to your higher self. This acceptance makes you a more whole person. This stage is a sign of personal growth and spiritual maturation. Stage 7. Transformation and integrity. Reaching light and darkness. At the end of the spiritual awakening journey, the transformation and integrity stage is a summary of the entire process and also the ultimate goal. This stage involves finding inner harmony and peace by establishing a balance between darkness and light. You have now made peace not only with light, but also with darkness. This stage involves accepting all aspects of yourself by ceasing to fight the ego and avoiding the dark aspects. Transformation is a kind of rebirth. It is not only letting go of the old self, but also reaching a higher awareness with all your experiences. As you accept your shadow, your ego, your traumas, your pains, and your fears, the power within you emerges. All these processes shaped you, and ultimately you became a stronger, more whole person. For example, Seda struggled for years to cope with her losses and disappointments. However, over time, she realized that every difficulty taught her something. The lessons he learned during his dark times made him a deeper and more meaningful person. He finally made peace with both the light and the darkness. He had reached inner peace because he now accepted all aspects of himself. At this stage, achieving inner balance becomes a part of life. You no longer have complete trust in the outside world, but also in your inner world. You can balance the difficulties, pains, and joys. It is not the end of the spiritual awakening process, but actually a sign of a new beginning. True enlightenment brings you inner wholeness, and you can benefit from the power of both poles by establishing a balance between light and darkness. Conclusion, and called the spiritual awakening journey, is a process of deep inner discovery and transformation. Today, we have examined the 7 dark stages you may encounter on this journey and explored the insights of each. Now, let's briefly recall how to manage these stages. Shock and denial, resistance to spiritual change, and struggle with the old identity. Deep loneliness and isolation, feeling alone and misunderstood. Ego, death and identity. Crisis, the devastating impact of the question, who am I? Energetic clearing and physical symptoms, physical and spiritual challenges. False enlightenment traps, false light and ego masking. Shadow integration, confronting and accepting the dark aspects. Transformation and wholeness, bringing balance to light and darkness, inner peace. If this video helped you, please subscribe, turn on notifications, and check out the playlist. Don't forget to join our channel for more guidance on your spiritual journey and to see in-depth content.